The cross-cultural affair. Aria stepped off the plane, feeling the rush of excitement and nerves as she arrived in a city unlike any she had ever known. The vibrant streets buzzed with a blend of languages, styles, and smells that filled her senses with wonder. She had come as part of a cultural exchange program, eager to immerse herself in a world that felt so different from her own. On her first day at the university, Aria met David, a quiet yet confident student deeply rooted in his country's traditional values. David spoke passionately about his family's customs, sharing stories of his ancestors with a warmth that drew her in. Aria found herself enchanted by the grace with which David honored his past, respecting the weight of tradition that shaped his life. But when Aria met Sophie, her perspective shifted. Sophie was bold, confident, and unapologetically modern in her outlook. Sophie spoke about travel, technology, and global integration, inspiring Aria to think beyond the borders of one culture. The stark contrast between David's groundedness and Sophie's free spirit left Aria in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. As weeks passed, Aria spent time with both David and Sophie, torn between the stability of tradition and the excitement of modernity. David introduced Aria to his family, who welcomed her with open arms and shared stories of their proud cultural heritage. She marveled at the rituals, the food, and the deep connection they felt to their history, finding it beautiful but unfamiliar. With Sophie, Aria attended bustling city festivals, art galleries, and cafes filled with people from all corners of the world. Sophie encouraged Aria to embrace new ideas, to see the world not as static, but as an ever-evolving tapestry of connections. The more Aria learned, the more conflicted she became, feeling pulled between David's comforting roots and Sophie's exhilarating future. One afternoon, David took Aria to a traditional dance performance, explaining each movement's significance to his culture. She admired how David lived his life with respect for the past, but part of her yearned for the adventure Sophie represented. Sophie invited Aria to a tech innovation conference, where young minds from across the globe shared ideas about the future. The energy in the room was electric, and Aria felt alive, as if she were on the cusp of something extraordinary. David was kind and steady, always there with a reassuring smile, but Sophie made Aria feel like she could change the world. Aria found herself asking difficult questions: could she be true to both tradition and modernity, or must she choose one? One evening, David and Aria walked through a quiet garden, the peaceful surroundings mirroring David's sense of balance in life. David spoke of his future plans, ones that involved preserving his family's traditions while staying close to home. Aria realized that while she admired David's dedication, she wasn't sure if she could fit into the life he envisioned. With Sophie, Aria felt free, like the world was open for exploration, but with David, she felt grounded in something timeless. Aria knew that both David and Sophie offered something important, but in vastly different ways, challenging her values. She spent sleepless nights contemplating her future, her heart aching as she tried to reconcile the two sides of her soul. Sophie, ever the visionary, spoke of a world where borders and traditions blurred, and cultures merged to create something new. Aria saw in Sophie a reflection of her own desire for growth and change, an openness to what the future could be. When David invited her to a family gathering, Aria felt the weight of his expectations, as if choosing him meant choosing his world. At the gathering, Aria was warmly embraced by David's family, but she sensed that her heart was drifting away from this life. She wanted to honor David's culture, but she also wanted to honor her own dreams, her own vision of what her life could be. Sophie invited Aria to a rooftop party with friends from across the globe, each person representing a piece of the modern world. The laughter and conversations at the party swirled around Aria, making her feel like she belonged to something much bigger. Aria realized that her connection to Sophie was more than a passing interest, it was a reflection of her evolving identity. David would always hold a place in her heart, but Aria knew she was ready to embrace the limitless possibilities Sophie offered. She sat by the river, reflecting on the journey she had been on, recognizing that both David and Sophie had changed her. Tradition had given Aria roots, but it was modernity that made her feel alive, ready to take on the world with a new perspective. David sensed the change in Aria's heart, and though it pained him, he respected her need to follow her own path. Aria met with David one final time, sharing a quiet moment of understanding that their futures lay in different directions. They parted ways amicably, with David's last words being a wish for her happiness, whatever path she chose. Aria walked away with tears in her eyes, grateful for David's grace and the lessons he had taught her about family and tradition. She sought out Sophie, her heart lightened with the decision, ready to face a future filled with excitement and possibility. Sophie smiled when she saw Aria, and without needing words, she knew that Aria had made her choice. Together, they explored the city, wandering through modern art exhibits, sleek cafes, and innovation hubs that hummed with energy. Aria felt at peace with her decision, knowing that embracing the future didn't mean rejecting the past, it meant evolving. David and Aria kept in touch, their bond shifting into a friendship built on respect, each grateful for the other's influence. Aria and Sophie's relationship blossomed, built on shared dreams of a world where tradition and modernity could coexist harmoniously. Aria's journey had not just been about love, but about finding herself, about embracing all that life had to offer. As she stood on the balcony of their apartment, gazing out at the city skyline, Aria smiled, ready for whatever came next. Her heart was open, her mind free, and her spirit alive with the possibilities of a life lived without boundaries. Aria had chosen love, yes, but she had also chosen to be true to herself, and that made all the difference. She knew the journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but with Sophie by her side, she felt ready to take on the world. The blend of cultures, ideas, and perspectives had shaped Aria into someone she hadn't imagined before. Through love, growth, and change, Aria realized that the world was as wide as she allowed it to be. Aria had learned to honor the past while looking toward the future, finding balance in the chaos of life. With Sophie, Aria felt like she could take on anything, because together, they were writing their own story. The city below buzzed with life, and Aria knew she had found her place in it, standing on the edge of tradition and modernity. Love had been the beginning, but the journey was hers to define, and Aria was ready to create a life beyond borders.